Good evening and welcome to another edition of the East Idaho Prepcast on IdahoSports.com, breaking down the top stories from Districts 5 and 6 of East Idaho High School athletics. This show is brought to you by Ideal, a state-sponsored tax advantage savings plan that helps families pay for the cost of college. With the rising cost of college, developing a savings plan is the first and most important step in helping families finance a college education. An Ideal 529 account can be used towards higher education, a trade school apprenticeship, or even student loan repayments. For more information, go to idsavings.org. My name is Joel Richardson. Let's bring in my co-host, Sean Kane. Sean, it's a busy week in East Idaho. How you holding up, man?
I'm great. Things are rolling. The weather's getting chilly. Wouldn't be a little East Idaho without a little weather. And
every week, little weather talk.
And people are upset about something, but
let's
talk about sports.
Well, let's talk about sports, man. Speaking of people being upset about something, so we had this incident, I think it was on Friday, where Idaho Falls marching band was playing, right? And they were doing their halftime show, and in comes the Idaho Falls football team coming in from the locker room, doing their smoke and coming through the lion, and it was all great. Unfortunately, they were coming during the high school the Idaho Falls marching band presentation, so it kind of got a little awkward. There were some people complaining, and hey, this is the high school bands. This is their only time, right? This is when they play for the parents and give a little halftime performance. But apologies were given, and it was a miscommunication, something that can easily be fixed. But that was one of those things that came out over the weekend that you think, whoops.
It was kind of a heated debate, we'll say, on your social media platforms, and just reading it was, it's kind of interesting, but the thing is, I personally, and I'll take my stand, I didn't see anything but maybe just some sort of miscommunication on whatever happened, which, I mean, we're dealing with high school kids, like, if they get up and make it to school in the morning, most of us are pretty happy. So like, I think we just had some miscommunication, and I get both sides of it, being a coach and all that. But I think the thing we just have to, kind of keep in our back of our minds is just be respectful to all the athletics and all the activities, everyone, from band to flag team to cheer to football, everyone's putting in their time, right? Yeah. And everyone can't be objective, because my kids here, my cousins here, it's hard to be objective, right? So the thing I think you have to think about is just be respectful for everyone. I think it'll be taking, things will happen. I didn't see any, malintent in, I'm not being the detective on it. I'm not going and researching it. And I almost wanted to say, because how it was kind of brought, I almost thought it was like a non-story, to be honest with you.
Right.
But I can understand people getting upset and hurt by what occurred. But yeah, I think maybe a little blown out of proportion in the coverage of it, because I think at the end of the day, it was, it's rectified to a point. And, if you think I'm wrong, that's fine too. But I think that's what's important, is everyone gets their opinion on it. But at the end of the day, let's just all be respectful, not only to the activities, the athletics, the referees, everyone, the AD, let's be respectful, because for all these things to happen, it takes an extraordinary amount of people. And I think that's what get lost. And I think that's why people get upset, because they know how much it takes to do anything from a sport to an athletic. But remember, to respect each other, and to, just remember, it takes everyone. And when we all work together, it's so much easier. So much easier.
Yeah, for sure. And head coach, Joe Parker, he issued an apology, but I don't know the whole story, but I imagine it maybe wasn't even him. That's just what they do. Boosters set up the tiger, cheerleaders are out there getting ready for the players to come out. They let the smoke go, and the band's still out there. And frankly, marching, I don't know how old marching band here is in Idaho. I came from California. Marching bands were massive where I grew up, and marching bands had most of the halftime, but they came in and got off quickly. And maybe the marching band didn't get there as soon as they were supposed to, or something. But yeah, let's have some charity, right, and give each other some grace. But yeah, head coach Parker issued the apology. though we're going to work something out so it doesn't happen again. But giving each other some grace and moving forward that's great. And it sounds like that's what's happening with Idaho Falls football and the marching band. A little plug for the bands, by the way. We get to go to games every week, Sean, and the bands here in East Idaho rock. From West Side all the way to Thunder Ridge and beyond, right up north. I haven't been to a North Fremont game. Some of our colleagues have, but every band I've heard, every pet band, marching band, they're really good, and the numbers aren't massive like some of them that I grew up with. But dude, they're really good and they're fun and they play good music. So a little shout out to the marching bands out there, all the directors, all the kids playing. Thanks for at least making us helping us enjoy our time at the football games.
Yeah, and I'll tell you,
keep playing, man. Keep playing.
Yeah, there's a distinct difference, and I can tell you this when you go to state event. Where it's like two teams that aren't from the Boise area in basketball per se. And the team that has the band makes the whole game better.
Yes.
For both teams, right? Or you just have this super stale environment with, whoever could come. Because, if it's two really far away schools, not everyone can come. But whatever team is able to bring a band and bring it makes the environment so much better for spectators, everyone. So, yeah, big thanks to the Vans. And then the other thing I just kind of thought of too, I know at halftime the clock is an issue, and now that everyone's got boards, right? Video boards. Sometimes it doesn't show the time. In fact, at Century, I just added the clock to our ad reel, so a coach can look out and see in the bottom corner how much time is left in halftime. I know that. With the adding of all these electronical devices, that has become an issue too. And so it's a short amount of time and they'll get it worked out. And you know what, we're going to move forward.
Yeah, totally. Well, here in the East Idaho Prepcast, Sean, it's the hard hitting stuff, right? High school marching band. Okay, man. Who thought we were going to be talking about marching band and band here in the East Idaho Prepcast, but we did. So shout out to all the band, all the band homies out there. All right, Sean, boys soccer. We're going to do boys soccer, a little bit of 2A, 1A volleyball, football, where we're going to be, and we'll get out of here. Again, this show is brought to you by Ideal State Savings, or a state-sponsored tax advantage savings plan. If you want to pay for the cost of college, help pay for the cost of college, hit up idsavings.org. Sean, speaking of Idaho Falls, we got 3 really good teams right now in boys soccer. One of them is the 5A Idaho Falls Tigers, that orange and black. They're undefeated in conference play, just lost a few games in non-conference play. Head coach Ryan Cook, he's been there a while. He's got a senior heavy, then a few juniors, no underclassmen on his team, a lot of experience, a lot of goal scores, a lot of assists on that team. And so far, they're number 1 in 5A coaches poll, and they're number 1 in the conference. What are you seeing so far from those Tigers?
Well, the thing I'm going to look at is the comparables, Joel. I'm going to go. I think coaches polls are fun.
Sometimes they're accurate. Come on, man.
But for me in soccer, it's comparables. So who has Idaho Falls, beaten in that top 5? Well, they haven't beaten anyone, but they've tied Wood River.
Yep.
So
that's a big tie.
So they belong to be there? Yes. Wood River also is 8-0 with 2 ties. So, but we have Idaho Falls number 1. Idaho Falls lone loss. It's a Thunder Ridge, and we know they are always in the state tournament. They always make it to the state tournament. Always one of the top teams in East Idaho. So, I mean, that's a good loss if you can say there's a good loss. But
yeah,
pretty good. I got a chance to see this Idaho Falls team last year, and what I remember pretty dominantly was their speed. This was a fast team. This is a team that used speed, maybe not quite the size, but like you said, now it's senior heavy, so there's a lot of juniors last year, and they were fast. And I can tell you, speed kills in soccer.
Yeah, for sure. And in this, they've had a good first half with that speed. The win last week against Blackfoot, had a chance to talk with Coach Ryan Cook. That win against Blackfoot was really good for them. They haven't beaten Blackfoot, Sean, since 2022. So good boost of confidence for the team, because Blackfoot has been that coach says staple of excellence in the area, right, in the high country conference. So win against them was really good. And Sean, with that speed, they've scored 26 goals, only given up 7, but of those 26 goals, 20 have been assisted. What does that mean for a soccer team when you're getting 20 assists off 20 goals?
Well, when you're getting assists, you're playing within the construct of what you're trying to do, and
Right.
working as a team, and soccer's such a interesting sport in the fact that you could just have a goal and it really didn't, mature throughout the game. Like, it could just happen, mistakes, something different. But when we have a ton of assists, your team is getting the ball in the right places to the other players, and that's a lot easier said than done with the defense, right? So assists mean you're working very well as a team. You're on the same page.
Yeah. Something coach really likes, 11 different scores. And Sean, we love to hear about, hey, who's the key players? Who should we be watching? Who should the fans be watching for? And, coaches hate singling out players because it means they're leaving out somebody else that also deserves, that accolade. So coach loves, he wouldn't give me names, but coach loves that there's 11 different scores on this team. So moving forward in the second half, Sean, the first half of the season is basically over. Moving into conference play, the second half of the season, it gets tough. Coach says, really in this conference, it's anyone's title. And we know that from just watching these seasons, season in, season out. It seems like High Country Conference with boys soccer, girls soccer, volleyball, it's anyone's game. And so far that's the case for boys soccer. But tell me this, Sean, as a coach. So Coach Cook says they're going to stick with their 3 H's moving forward in the second half. They want to stay humble, continue hardworking, and being hungry. When you're first place in the High Country Conference, but you have people nipping at your heels, would you say it's easy to stay humble, hardworking, and hungry? What are your thoughts on that?
I think, you have your goals, and this mantra is a great goal, but I'm not going to speak for coach here, but I'm going to say you want to win that number 1 seed outright in District 6, because District 6 is guaranteed some sort of upset somewhere in that tournament. Like, we have the data, run the numbers. Right. And you don't want to be that team that gets upset. You want to put yourself in the best position to get the best possible spot in that bracket at state. And I think that is what you got to think of is, you got to look at some small term goals, right? Obviously everyone's goal is to bring back a blue trophy at the end of the year, but not everyone does, right? You got to have small goals, like let's win districts. Let's get the number 1 seed. Let's look at that schedule. Let's see where our big opponents are. And I always look at the second half of the season as that if you're playing at a certain point at that half of the season, then you're ready to go. And then what do we got to do to now go farther, right? We're playing, we're at number 1 in the polls. We're predicted as a team to go far. Well, what's it take to be that team, right? We've got to start cleaning things up. We've got to start looking at those other opponents. In soccer, I don't know how much scouting they do. I know there's a lot more tape now. They all have these big pole cameras. I don't know if you've seen it. It's like a 8-foot, 10-foot pole that sits up and records it. And some of my tennis players that play soccer will send me the clips from it. But what an asset. I think in the second half season, you've also got to start looking at these other teams. You can't go away from your district. I also think Hillcrest is a dangerous team that's lurking. They're 1-1 in conference. I mean, we're
playing them tonight, unless the game's already over.
I don't know if they're playing on the lights or not, if that was a 7:00 start or if like a 4:30, but that'll be a good one. Yeah. But even right, District 6, you lose, you still get that conference tournament, and anything can happen, especially in soccer. But I think in the second half of the season, you got to start looking at what's next, right? We've done this part. We got to finish out conference, and then I got to start looking at the rest of the state and saying, how am I going to beat them?
Yeah. What's next for Hillcrest? What's next for Idaho Falls is Shelley. Well, they had Hillcrest at 7:00, and then Shelley at home at Century. Sean going to be at Idaho Falls, Bonneville, Skyline, and then Hillcrest one more time. So Shelley's at right now is their number 2. Hillcrest is technically number 4. They already played Blackfoot, and they got Bonneville and Skyline. Skyline's right there lurking, number 3. Bonneville in last place. They're 0-4-1, but they had that tie. And again, the one team that they tied was Blackfoot. And then they beat them 2-0. So having that tie against Blackfoot and then beating them 2-0, they have that goal differential. They have that win over them, which is huge. So that's what's coming up for Idaho Falls Tigers. Sean, one more thing about them. Coach mentioned total of 4 shutouts with 3 in a row in their last 3 games, which shows maybe in the second half they're starting to play really good soccer, which bodes well for them as you talk about looking forward. What's next? What's the next big goal to accomplish? And of course, we've talked about this. We don't want to get too far ahead of ourselves, but we're allowed to because we're just prepcasters. We're not playing the game. Getting to Boise and playing those Boise teams is always really hard. So when you've tied Wood River, that's a good sign. I know Wood River's not Boise school, but then getting 2 against those Boise schools, we haven't had much success with boys, girls soccer. Girls soccer, I guess Pocatello won last year, but playing against those Boise schools, 5A, 6A is always a tough task. So.
Yeah, typically in that 5A, used to be 4A division, you always had Bishop Kelly and Sandpoint, super solid programs.
Yes, forgot about Sandpoint. Absolutely.
Bishop Kelly has moved up right now, and they play in the 6A for soccer. It'll be real interesting. You do have Sandpoint in that top 4 spot in the classification. 5A boys has been a little more open, I would say. You had Caldwell had a run for a long time. Blackfoot's been there.
Right.
There's a little bit of more of a mix. Valley View, who's ranked number 2, I saw them last year as well. They were a solid team. So you've got a lot of parity, but traditionally for boys, it's been very, very tough, I think, in the 6A, 5A level here in East Idaho.
Yeah. So let's talk about 6A. Congrats to the IF Tigers. We're cheering for you moving forward. Good luck the rest of the way. Speaking of 6A, you got the Thunder Ridge Titans as well. A few other teams, boys soccer teams that are doing well right now. Thunder Ridge Titans undefeated in conference play. And then on the 4A ranks, you got Sugar Salem and Teton. Sean, we've talked about this before. Both undefeated in conference and non-conference play. Big game coming up October 7th. Last time they played, they tied. Their next game against each other is October 7th. We have that one massively circled on the calendar. Sean, unfortunately, whoever wins that game gets the higher seed, and we'll see how they do in their little Mountain Rivers Conference tournament play. But because there's only one seed, go ahead.
Well, it's different now. We have more teams, but it's still only one.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. It's still only one. So whoever wins, I think October 7th gets that high seed. They have that home field advantage, and you would assume have the higher chance then of getting that coveted 1 seed slot. So still, yeah, 4A has more teams, but unfortunately still a 1 seed. So Thunder Ridge Titans doing really well, undefeated in conference play. Sugar Salem, Teton, both undefeated in conference and non-conference play. We're cheering those teams on as well. Let's change the channel to 2A, 1A volleyball, Sean. We haven't talked about them all season. A lot of times you have Grace Lutheran, who's always kind of the Cinderella story with 6-7 players on their roster. Right now they're kind of in the middle of the pack, but we've got 2 teams we got to talk about. 2A Butte County, 1A Rockland. Who do you want to hit first?
Oh, let's hit Butte County. I mean, what a phenomenal record right now, right? 19-2. Their 2 losses. Get this, or Bonneville, which has been a powerhouse, won a bunch of state championships, and then 6A, so 5A Bonneville and 6A Madison are their only 2 losses. 2 teams that are a pedigree above some other teams. I mean, in volleyball, obviously Madison right now, the king of the castle, or the queen of the castle, I should say. And Bonneville has been there before and always very strong. Idaho Falls just in general has such a great volleyball club scene, as the coach from Madison told us when we had him on the show. And but Butte right now 14-0, 1-0 in conference. Unfortunately they come from that small conference with Grace, and now Arturo's Prep is added there. But Arturo's Prep still young, still looking for some footing, I think, and athletically. I can't imagine there's a ton of kids. You pretty much got every kid playing something there,
right?
But yeah, Butte County, they've beaten so many upper division teams too, right? Just a ton of teams, I think. And this leads in good to the 1A. They've played Rockland.
Yep.
They've beat Rockland at the a division up, but it was 2-0, so it's at a tournament, right? Probably, or all these are in here as 2-0, which is weird to me, but maybe that's wrong on our, because usually you play 3, so it must be a tournament. And yeah, it looks like it was, but yeah, tournament you play 2, best 2 out of 3, but real match is 3 out of 5.
Right.
But yeah, so Butte County, Gretchen Simpson, 8th season. They're just 2024 2A champ. They're the last year's champs. 6 seniors, 4 juniors, and only one team has won a set against them since Thunder Ridge. So they've pretty much been dominant in the classification, and besides those 2 losses to a 6A, going for a quadruple Pete or whatever Madison's going for.
Yeah. Well, yeah. And that stat, before those losses to Madison and Bonneville, they hadn't given up a set, right? Like you said, since Thunder Ridge on August 28th. That's insane. And they won that game 2-1 or 2-1. So Butte County killing it right now. Congrats to Gretchen Simpson and all those 6 seniors, 4 juniors. Heavy with upperclassmen. They're doing a great job. Good luck the rest of the way. And man, congratulations on a great season so far. But Butte County, that's not enough, right? They want more, and they're trying to repeat once again. So from the Lady Pirates to the Lady Bulldogs, if you will, let's talk 1A Rockland, Sean. One of their few losses was to Butte County. This is Suzanne Wilson's 4th year. Last year, though, Sean, they kind of tripped up, right? They won the conference. They were the number 1 seed going into state. We thought it was a done deal for Rockland, but 1A is so tough. As we've talked about in the past, they fell to Grace Lutheran and Horseshoe Bend for the 3rd place finish. Grace Lutheran ends up winning the whole thing, which I think you and me and probably the team at Grace Lutheran were the only ones who thought Grace Lutheran could take it all the way. I even was probably a little more skeptical than you were.
Yeah, and Grace Lutheran had a phenomenal run. They're playing well. They have like 7 girls, right? You play 6. You have 0 room for injury, a cold, anything to slow that down. I will say this: pretty much everyone had penciled in Horseshoe Bend, even with Rockland coming in as the one seed. I remember very distinct conversations. No, there's no way anyone beats Horseshoe Bend this year in 1A. And you can take a big guess at who said that. and I'm like, Grace has got a chance. And let's not forget, Rockland was the number 1 seed. They defeated Grace. Grace just had a tournament to remember, right? It was their first in program history and everything. But I think right now Rockland is not going to put anything, take anything for granted. They're doing right now really well. They basically have not lost very much. I was looking at last year's. Let's go back. They have 2 ties, which I think is interesting, to Soda Springs and Kellogg when they're at the tournament. They lost to Valley. They've lost to Oakley in a 2-3. They've lost to Ryrie, and like we had already talked about, Butte County. But they just played Chalice 3-0 win last Saturday. So Rockland, Susan Wilson, 4th year, they're playing real well. You'd have to say they're favorites out of that big conference going forward here.
Yeah, for sure. Maybe they don't want to be favorites, though, as they were the 1 seed last year and tripped up. Maybe they want to come in as the 2 seed, because if I'm not mistaken, Sean, they get 2.5 bids, right?
Yeah.
That the Rocky Mountain Conference gets the 2 and then the 1 play-in game. So
that was the bad deal, right? Because Rockland ended up having to play Grace. Really, they're on the same half of the draw.
Yep.
Was the other team maybe Water Springs or something? I can't remember, but
they won that first game, but then they lost the next one.
So when you get so many teams from your conference, which you love, the chances are you're gonna have to play them, which maybe you don't love as much.
Right. So that's Rockland, that's Butte County. We haven't hit 2A, 1A volleyball so far this season, so it's good to hit those. Again, congrats to Rockland on a great season so far. Suzanne Wilson and the healthy mix of upper and underclassmen on that team. Good luck the rest of the way. Jean, let's finish the show up with a little football talk. And folks, if you want to hit us up during the show, after the show, send your comments. We're always looking at the comments after the show throughout the week. And so if you have any hot takes during or after the show, please comment below. Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, any of the socials on IdahoSports.com. And thanks for supporting the show. Don't forget to like and subscribe to the show so you know when it drops week in and week out. Football talk, Sean. You and I were at the Hillcrest Skyline game. I got some info about those onside kicks that were insane, right? If I had a nickel for every time it happened, you know the rest of the quote, right?
You'd have 10 cents.
I would have 10 cents. It happened twice. Skyline hit 2 onside kicks. We did some rule searching, and sure enough, once the ball in high school football, this is a safety concern. If the ball is onside kicked and it bounces up, right? It hits the turf, hits the grass, and bounces up immediately. It's an illegal play, dead ball. Ball goes to the returning team, and we start, right? Returning team gets the ball, no questions asked. It's an illegal play for safety reasons. Unfortunately for Skyline, both their onside kicks went high off that first bounce. Both those onside kicks should have been illegal. Referees missed it. That's okay. We make, no one's perfect. And but with that, Skyline took advantage of the time they had. 19 straight points unanswered. But Hillcrest eventually got that third pooch kick that almost went to Skyline's way. They jumped on it. A couple weird plays, some onside, some encroachment, and then eventually Hillcrest pulled away 25-19 with the victory. Hillcrest owns the one slot in High Country Conference. But kind of what a crazy last 5 minutes, Sean, in that game.
I think it was Cade from KPVI Channel 6 News on his highlight reel said Hillcrest was winning the game for 3.5 of the 3, because we're saying like 3 quarters, but it was more like
3 3/4.
Yeah, 3 3/4. Hillcrest is up 25-0. Pretty much in the driver's seat. Skyline's offense just not effective throughout the game until the end, where it just, like you said, got crazy. We got 2 onside kicks. We had high flying passes at the end. And really, if Hillcrest just gets another first down on one drive, the game's probably over too. But it at the end of the day, it doesn't matter. It's 25-19.
Yep.
You're gonna look it up the next day. I said this on air, and you're gonna think, "Wow, we had a barn burner at Hillcrest," and it really wasn't. You were never like, "Man, Skyline's gonna win." But if they would have gotten that third onside kick in a row, I don't even know. We might have just let it roll.
6-point game.
We just might have let it roll and not talk or something. You know what I mean? Like, just go ahead and watch. Sean's going to be quiet, but it was good. And it was as good as Hillcrest's offense was. Their defense is probably better. We probably snubbed them a little bit because Tyson Sweetwood's so good. But the defense helped. I mean, it's a shutout with 4 minutes left. 4 minutes, maybe 4 minutes left. It's a shutout, 25-0. And then all that craziness ensued. But Hillcrest's defense is legit. They just, they filled every hole. They covered every pass. The 2 quarterback system of Skyline, I never really saw where that was a congruent thing working until the end, I guess. You thought Thomas was better. I thought Giannini the third was better, and then I maybe halfway through I might have switched my thought process on that too.
Well, and it may have been Giannini the third when we thought it was Thomas. Frankly, we may have given Thomas more credit than when Giannini was actually the guy. So continue,
because they were 2-0, and it was there was no rhyme or rhythm to it. It was not like, oh, we have him in for passing and him in for running. Like, it was just. It was a kind of a constant switch, but it was a good game. I mean, realistically, you got to think in your back in the mind. Last year, Skyline wins this game, but loses the state championship. Hillcrest wins this year. What's going to happen? I talked to Coach Mossholder after, and he's like, at least you guys got a good game.
Yeah.
and I'm like, well,
the last 5 minutes,
kind of. But Sweetwood is the deal. He's probably, if you're going to go to a high school football game and you have no allegiance to anyone, that's definitely a player.
Go watch him play.
A player I'd go check out in East Idaho, because Skyline's defense was super good too. Skyline's defense, if it was another team, I think Hillcrest is up 50-0. But
we saw that right against Bonneville and other teams. So yeah,
Skyline's defense was very good. Hillcrest didn't make a lot of big plays besides Sweetwood. I think running one of the touchdowns for 40 yards was probably the biggest play. Then everything else was slow, methodical, like a Toyota Corolla, which Joel loved. They just
best metaphor of the night, Sean.
Just ran the ball, got yards, short swing passes, nothing too flashy, and let their defense talk a lot. But yeah, it was a fun matchup, and hopefully we'll see it again. I mean, I would love whatever 5A pans out. I'd love to have another 2 East Idaho teams playing for that championship. I think that's the easiest thing for us on this podcast, if we get 2 East Idaho teams playing for 5A,
Yeah, for sure. Let's do it. Let's do it again. There'll probably be a playoff rematch between these 2 teams, but Hillcrest, unless something wild happens, they are probably going to be the 5A champs. Other teams want something to say about that, but Hillcrest is really good. We touted their offense. Their defense came to play. Almost shut out Skyline except for those last 5 minutes. Really good. Skyline's defense is awesome as well. They basically shut down Dak Sargent. There wasn't much running game except for Tyson Sweetwood, who played really well, not just running the ball, but throwing. I think Skyline might have their quarterback ready to go. I like Cooper Thomas better. I think you stick with one quarterback. I thought the way the spin on the ball, his velocity was better, and I thought he scrambled pretty well. So I'm curious to see what happens this weekend, because Sean, I will actually be at the game this weekend broadcasting for IdahoSports.com at the Emotion Bowl this Friday, 7:00. If you can't be there, tune into IdahoSports.com. I'll be on the call with Josh McGauley, and I'm really excited to see if Skyline sticks with one quarterback, whether it's Cooper Thomas or I can't think of his name, the third. Giannini, thank you. Giannini, the third. I would like to see him stick with one quarterback unless they're not doing well. But I think Cooper Thomas, from what I could see, and I've only seen one game, so my opinion is worth not much. Not even 10 cents. I want them to stick with Cooper Thomas, though. I'm ready to go with Thomas, and I want to see what he'll do against right now an Idaho Falls team that's really just – they're starting to pick up the pieces and starting to regroup, and 1-2 years away. But looking forward to seeing what Skyline does this week in the Emotion Bowl.
I think you'll see a lot of Zion Crockett.
That's true.
I think Hillcrest kind of is maybe the only time he's ever been held at bay in the last 2 years. Maybe was last Friday night. Really didn't get anything going. Couldn't get him involved, I think, the way they wanted to. Skyline. So I think this week you'll have a heavy dose of screens and jet sweeps from Zion Crockett, and I'm going to say minimum he has 2 touchdowns.
Okay,
minimum.
I like it. Great job by Hillcrest to shut down Zion Crockett on those outside. I mean, they had a couple nice screens early on, but after that, there wasn't much that Skyline could do against that Hillcrest defense. Sean, a couple other stories that we want to hit, or that we can hit. We got North Fremont versus Salmon this weekend. This is 4-0 North Fremont versus 2-3 Salmon. So, okay, it's a conference game in the Nuke, whatever. But you got head coach Keith Director, who last year was the head coach of North Fremont. His assistant coach, Jason Wright, became the head coach of North Fremont when Coach Director took the job at Salmon. So you got, the apprentice now becoming the master, and now 2 masters facing off against each other. 4-0 North Fremont versus 2-3 Salmon. That's a very intriguing matchup. And then your boys, Sean, 5-0 Century versus Teton. Then Century has Preston and Pokey. And with those 2 matchups, what intrigues you the most?
Oh man, I'm gonna homer out. I'm gonna have to go Century Teton. I think Teton is a super solid 4A team, right? I think Teton is pretty good. They were really close in beating North Fremont last Friday, right? It was only 21-26. I think North Fremont's really good. And Teton also played Sandpoint, which has been on a scoring tear. And Teton only lost 28-42, which is kind of close if it's a shootout. So I think this is a big game for Century. I'm really excited to see, if they can get one more win. Then we're going to be talking, if they win out, and luckily if they win out, right, they're the conference champions. They'll be slotted in the bracket no matter what. But
right.
I mean, here's the thing though. I was looking at Max Preps, and like, say they don't win the conference, they could be 7-1 and probably not make the playoffs just because their strength of schedule is not as high as other teams, which that would be kind of crazy.
Well, and that's the one thing that's keeping them out, right? Keeping them from really leaping over a bunch of teams is their strength of schedule. It just, they haven't played a lot of good teams, and that's no fault of their own. But this is their chance, Sean. This is their chance to play Teton. Teton's averaging 30 and 27. So averaging 30, giving up 27, but they played a lot of good teams. Century, they haven't. And look, we're all about Century. I got my Century shirt. I should have worn it tonight, but I want to see them play a good team, and that's this Friday. This is where Century can prove themselves and prove to Idaho we're for real.
Yeah, and again, like, even if they don't win this game, it's not the end of the world, right?
Absolutely.
They haven't won a game.
Your conference.
Haven't won a game in 2 years. Like, you're 5-0. You've leaps and bounds probably went over what 99% of the state's expectations were, but they have some wins over teams like Burley, Shelley, right, that play other teams. That will factor in there. And then, like you said, you could lose this game against Teton and still win the conference, which I think for District 5, which has been predominantly a Pocatello Thunder district the last few years. Preston snuck in there and got it last year, which I don't think a lot of us saw coming. I think there's a lot of parity. I think anything can happen. You could see him go 1-1 or whatever, and then I don't know what happens. Kansas City playoff? Kansas City playoff, hopefully. I don't know what the rules. I'll have to look at it.
That might be the coin flip one. I can't remember exactly, but it may be the coin flip. Last story, Sean, then we'll get out of here. 5-0 Ryrie Bulldogs. They had a decent season last year. There was some hype behind the Bulldogs. This year, though, they are for real. 5-0. Big win last week against Aberdeen. And Aberdeen, they're up there with the West Sides and the Declos. New conference, man, is here to play behind 5-0 Ryrie. And now conference play this Friday versus Firth. Frankly, Ryrie should take care of business there. According to a source, Ryrie is, quote, kicking butt and taking names, man.
I mean, Ryrie, that was a tough game for me to pick. I've grown fond of the young Aberdeen Tigers team.
So have I. Yeah.
And Lupe Ortiz.
Yeah.
But I just felt like right now, and this was the deal with Ryrie last year. They had a lot of firepower, right? Last year, they could put up big numbers. They could score. I'm just looking at their point differential. Now they're averaging 38 points and only giving up 6.
Yes.
Aberdeen's never been a team that is putting up 30 points. Usually they're beating you 20-7. It's just the firepower, I think, of Ryrie right now is firing on all cylinders. I think Firth is definitely going through a transition where they used to be at the top of this conference, and now you've got North Fremont and Ryrie. Ryrie sitting in the driver's seat here. When they play North Fremont, that'll be a huge game, pivotal game, I think, just to kind of set the tone of this conference. But I think the new conferences in a place now where they can be competitive with Southeast Idaho. Right?
Yes.
We've seen chinks in the armor of some of these teams. I think last year, I feel like at this point in the season, we looked at Southeast Idaho and it was like everyone was undefeated.
Right.
Or
Declo, West Side, Aberdeen. They were all together, and now it's transferred to the new conference. They're all undefeated.
Yep. It's totally flipped. I don't think West Side's in trouble. I don't think Declo's in trouble.
Agreed.
Aberdeen, I feel like, is in a little bit of trouble. I mean, the conference, there's only played one conference game, right? Declo and Aberdeen have played. I mean, you're only in trouble because the conference is good, right? You can't keep taking losses and hope to come out of this. So Aberdeen, a little bit of trouble, still like them, but Ryrie and the Nuke, right? North Fremont and Ryrie have flipped the switch. But let's be honest, 3A football, man, resides in East Idaho.
Sure does. And then, you mentioned North Fremont. They also have West J. We said that, West J is 4-0 as well. West J is averaging 43 points, only giving up 8. I saw someone post on the game day, the football game day podcast. I can't remember the name right now. Gem State. My goodness. It's late, Sean. It's time to go. The Gem State game day, someone's mentioned that West J spent so much time on the football field during the summer, working fundamentals, working plays. I'm hoping it was all legal, right, in terms of the time they used, but there was a ton of emphasis by West J in football this summer, and it's paying off. So after Firth, Ryrie's got West J and North Fremont, who are both undefeated. We'll see if they're still undefeated after this weekend. I imagine they will be, and then Ryrie gets to play West J, North Fremont against all the undefeated teams. It's exciting. I think Westside has some disservices done to Westside just because they lost that game. They lost. Marsh Valley canceled their season, and that was supposed to be a game that Westside played, and that's hurt them a little bit losing that game. But I think Westside's floating under the radar, which I'm sure they don't mind at all. Sean, let's finish up. Where are you going to be this coming weekend?
I'll be in Las Vegas, Nevada. I'll be calling the Bears-Raiders game.
Very good for a little Fox.
Fox is called me in. No, I'll just be there.
Bringing in Sean Kane.
Just join the game. I have to give a shout out. If you had your Century shirt, Ryan Frost. Now here's a little trivia question for you, Joel. Do you know who Ryan Frost is related to? That's a Bear.
Let's see, Jim McMahon.
No, Brian Urlacher.
Oh, no way.
Brian Urlacher's married to Ryan's sister.
So where are the tickets, Ryan? I got the shirt.
They're going to the game as well. They're going with Uncle Brian. I don't have anything cool to say like that. I don't get to go with Uncle Brian.
No, but you're going to be in the nosebleeds while they're eating, pizza, hot dogs, and having a cold drink.
Well, yeah, I mean maybe, but yeah, pretty cool. A lot of Bears fans in East Idaho, if you believe it or not, and we're a sad, weary bunch, but we're going to truck along. So that's what
but you're together, right? Bears fan, you can suffer together. When we suffer together, it's amazing. I don't want to get too philosophical, but life is easier, right? That's awesome. I will be at the Emotion Bowl this Friday, Skyline, Idaho Falls. I think it's the 59th or 60th game against these two teams. Skyline has the record, of course. They have more wins and losses against Idaho Falls. I think it is 36-23 in favor of Skyline. The goalposts have been painted blue for a few years. IF won, 3 or 4 years ago?
Yeah, big upset.
Big upset game, yeah. But since then and before then, it's been mostly Skyline. So we'll see what Idaho Falls has under their sleeve. Maybe something surprising from Coach Joe Parker in his first year. You never know. Rivalries get crazy, right? Bonneville was hanging with Hillcrest for a quarter and a half until they fumbled on the one, and then it was all Hillcrest from there. But you never know, man. These are big games. You get up for them, and this could be Idaho Falls Super Bowl. Skyline has, obviously they want to beat Idaho Falls, but Skyline wants to get back to the playoffs and do big things. If Idaho Falls can really get up for this game, you never know what's going to happen. So doing that one with Josh McGauley this Friday, 7 o'clock on IdahoSports.com. If you can't be there, join us live, and we'll bring you that game live and free on IdahoSports.com. Sean, anything else you want to share before we get out of here?
No, I just remember when we did that game last year, there was some dispute of how many times they've actually played. Because I remember one thing had something, and then someone went and looked at the trophies or something. You might have to text good old Paul Kingsbury, owner.
Okay.
Acting CEO. he had some sheets, and usually we publish on IdahoSports.com a little story behind that Emotion Bowl. Yeah, it's the biggest. No matter what, even if the teams aren't maybe on equal measures. It's always just a huge game. It'll be full. There'll be food trucks. You'll be you won't be the only one in the booth. It'll be fun.
Yeah, for sure. So looking forward to that one. For Sean Kane, I'm George Ritson saying be excellent to each other. Have a great rest of your week. Enjoy all the games, and we'll see you next week on the East Idaho Prepcast on IdahoSports.com.